Hello, everyone. Welcome back to All at Once. I'm your host, Alexis Christine. If you're new here, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for watching on YouTube, wherever it is that you are tuning in. If you are a returning listener, thank you so much for coming back and being here and just being part of the All at Once community. Today, I want to talk to you guys about meditation and mindfulness because, especially with now it being we're almost just past the middle of winter. Spring is coming soon. But with things like seasonal depression and just kind of the burnout that comes after the holidays and everything in general, like for a lot of companies, the fiscal year end is coming up. It's tax season. Like there's a lot of stressful things happening. And something that has been really potent in my life is actually learning how to properly meditate and live a little bit more mindfully, really keeping myself in the present moment. And I find that it helps a lot with beating burnout essentially and just improving my mood a little bit. I'm going to do a whole episode on how I am working through seasonal depression and the things that have made a massive, massive difference for me. But with this episode, I just want to talk about meditation and mindfulness and what it actually means, how to get started. So if you guys are struggling with stress or anxiety or burnout and you want to really tap into this kind of meditation mindfulness world, but it feels overwhelming or it feels intimidating, you don't know where to start, or you just can't imagine yourself sitting and meditating because you have monkey brain, you get so distracted, like it just feels like the most skin crawling experience of the world to you, that is okay. I am here to help because meditation isn't actually just sitting and doing nothing for 10, 15, 20 minutes, an hour. There's so many other ways to meditate and to live mindfully and get that same kind of experience and result without actually just sitting and closing your eyes. And I want to go through all of it today because it really is something that is so helpful for our mental health and in our day-to-day lives. And I feel like everyone can benefit from this in some way. And there's so many different ways to tap into it that there's something for everyone. So when it comes to meditation, like I said, a lot of people think that meditation is just sitting, closing your eyes, and trying to have no thoughts in your brain, right? That is actually not what meditation is. So there's different types of meditation. There's active and there's passive. And what people are thinking of when they think of this meditation is a passive meditation, right? And the goal of that isn't actually to clear your mind of thoughts. The goal of that is to be in the present so fully that when the thoughts come in, you say, oh, hey, there's a thought, and you let it go instead of thinking into that thought and building the story. That's what it is. It's not that your mind has to be empty or that it has to be clear. It's that you're not feeding into the thoughts that do come up. So you're observing the thoughts without judgment and then letting them go. Just kind of like when you are looking at the sky and like the clouds are just passing by, it's like, oh, they're there, great, but you're not really like, that's it, you let it go. Or when you're driving, like other cars are passing you and you see the other cars, but you're not really like tuned into them. You're not focusing on one specific car in general. You're just driving as all of these cars, all of this scenery, whatever it is, goes past you. It's like that. It's like you see it's there, you acknowledge it, and then you continue on. Okay, so meditation really is a practice of awareness, not of clearing your mind. It's allowing the thoughts to come through and then letting them go instead of suppressing them or feeding into them. So like I said, there's two different types. There's passive and active. So what I'm talking about right now is the passive meditation, okay? And if this is something that you want to try, you want to get better at, whatever it is, these are some ways that you can start. So the first thing is find a comfortable position. If you fall asleep easily, I would not recommend lying down, because the whole point is to meditate, not to sleep. So you can kind of just like, even the way I am, just leaning against a couch, finding a comfortable position, closing your eyes and focusing on your breath. Feel the air being pulled in through your nostrils. Feel the air filling in your tummy, in your chest, feeling it as you exhale. Like just focus on the little micro movements, the micro feelings, and focus on that as you're breathing. Slow and controlled breathing in, slow and controlled breathing out. If a thought pops in, say, oh, hi thought, and then go back to feeling your breath. One thing that actually helped me a lot when I first started was I would count my breaths. So if I was going like this and I would breathe in, I'd say 1. And then I'd breathe in again. 2. And you can speak out loud. Like, it doesn't have to be all in your head. It's not like you have to be this silent creature sitting there. And that is something that really helped, because when a thought did come in, I would say, oh. And then sometimes I would feed into a little bit and I would realize, and I'd be like, oh, wait, back to counting breath. Or I would actually just think of it and be like, cool, and keep counting my breath. And the breath counting wouldn't even be interrupted. But having that simple count allows you to have something to come back to. So as you're counting, as you're focusing on those feelings of the breath, it's a really easy way to stay present. And like I said, you're not clearing your mind. You're just being in that present moment. That's all meditation is. It's bringing yourself into the present without any distractions. Something else that you can focus on when you're doing these meditations is light some incense, put in some aromatherapy. And as you're doing the meditation, focus on that scent, because that will also keep you in the present moment. Because as soon as you start to go into a thought and you drift off, you're not focusing on what you're smelling anymore. So having a scent or something there for you to draw yourself back to is also going to keep you into the present moment. Another thing that you can use is, if you just feel really icked out by silence, you can put on a meditation track, you can put on some sound bowls, because again, that is going to be something that you can tie yourself to as like an anchor. So paying attention to what instruments are playing, really focusing on like the different notes, how the instruments work together. As your eyes are closed and you're focusing on breathing, like paying attention to those different layers of the music will also be something to keep you in the present, because you're currently focusing on what is happening in your surrounding area. And a lot of people actually think that with meditation, it needs to be silent. You can't have any distractions, all of these things. But actually, if you're going to get good at meditation, it's being able to meditate literally, like say on the subway with all of the announcements, all of the people coming on and off, whatever, and not allowing that to disrupt your meditation practice. Because again, meditation is about being in the present moment. If you're not in the present moment, you'll be in your thoughts and you won't really be noticing all of that. But being in the present is really like sitting there, allowing all of these different sounds to come into your awareness and then letting them go and staying focused on your breathing. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not this kind of silent, stuffy thing that people are like, oh, I sit there for 8 hours a day in silence meditating like a Buddhist monk. Like, sure, maybe that's what they do, but that's not the core of what meditation is. It really is just bringing your awareness into the present moment. And if you can get yourself to the point where you can meditate at home and people are on a meeting downstairs or doors are banging or you're hearing dishes clattering or like whatever it is, and you can stay in that meditation, you can stay in that present moment and focus on your breathing and the bodily sensations and everything else that you're allowing yourself as an anchor, done. You've mastered it. Wonderful. And then active meditation is actually one of my favorite things in the world, because it's basically, again, the same thing. Like you're bringing yourself into the present, but you're doing it while you're doing something active. You're staying in the present moment. So one of the best examples for me that I found was when I was bouldering, like rock climbing, because that is such a meditative exercise for me. When you are on the wall, when you're climbing, like bouldering, you don't have ropes, right? It's only about 30 feet high, but there's no ropes. So if you fall, you're falling onto mats, and you have to be aware of how you're falling, all these things, whatever, that's beyond the point. But when you're on that wall, you have to be so present in the moment. You have to be planning out your next move, where your arm's going, where your feet are going, the angle at which. Is it a knee hook? Is it a toe hook? Like, how are you supposed to shift your weight to make sure you're not falling off of the little toe hold? Like, there's so many different things that if you are not in that present moment, if you are not focusing on what it is you're doing and being so aware of your body, you will fall, you know? And so while it doesn't look like traditional meditation, that is a form of meditation, because again, it's bringing yourself into that present moment. And another thing that I found actually is playing instruments. Playing instruments for me is so meditative. And I say that I can't play the piano. I can't play guitar. Like, I'm not a musician. But when I was in Bali, my friend had a handpan and I was playing it. And I like just zoned into this beautiful melodic tune that I was creating. And I was so into it. I was in such a flow state. I was just so in the present. I had no other thoughts coming in. My phone was on Do Not Disturb. I was just vibing out. And before I knew it, 2 hours had passed. That is a form of active meditation, okay? Going for a walk. If you go for a walk without headphones, so like no podcasts, no music, just literally going on a walk and tuning into the sounds of nature, paying attention to the surroundings, seeing how like the dew feels on the grass, listening to the birds, looking at the skyline, watching people play in the park, like whatever it is, that is a form of active meditation. You are so present in that moment. You're not lost in your thoughts in your head. You're not disassociating and focusing on a podcast or focusing on music and ignoring what's going on around you. You are in that present moment, and that is a form of active meditation. So other things that have this that people might not realize is being at the gym. A lot of people say like, oh, being at the gym is my form of meditation. Like it actually is. It's not just a thing that people say because they're like, oh, it calms me. It's like, no, that actually is meditation because you're so focused on the mind muscle connection. You're focused on your form. You're focused on the weight. You're breathing as you're lifting the weights and putting them down, like all of it. It's so in the present moment that is in itself a form of meditation. It's active meditation. Same with yoga, okay? Same with things like painting. Any sort of activity that gets you into a flow state where you're in the present moment and you're not disassociating or being distracted by outside things is a form of active meditation. So most of you probably do this without even realizing. And now I want to shift into mindfulness because meditation is like an act that you're doing. Like you're going to meditate. You're doing an activity that puts you into a meditative flow state, right? But mindfulness is a way of living. And they are pretty similar because with mindfulness, it is that you're in the present moment, but it's not you being in the present moment for a set period of time. It's the way that you carry yourself in your life, okay? So it's not rushing through tasks. It's actually being mindful, doing things with intention. So I bet you right now, if I said, go into that grocery store, buy an apple and come back out, and then asked you, what was the cashier wearing? How many people did you see? Was there a redhead in there? Like any sort of question about the surroundings, you probably could not answer them. And that is because we are so focused on ourselves. We are this like one track mind. We go in, get the thing, we leave, right? We don't actually take the time to be present in what we're doing. We're not looking at our surroundings. We're not paying attention to the small details. We're in and we're out. And that is a form of just not being mindful. If you were to do that in a mindful way, you would be paying attention to your surroundings, to all the small things around you, to the different sounds, to the different people. You would be in that present moment, analyzing with awe and wonder of how magical this grocery store is, how amazing all of these different people are. Maybe not like so intense, but you know what I mean. Basically, you're being aware and in the present moment of your surroundings. I was actually reading a book called The Miracle of Mindfulness, and I'm going to butcher the name, but it's by Thich Nhat Hanh, I think. I'll put it in the description. This was back when I was doing 75 Hard. So again, I'm like reading 10 pages of a book every day. And this book changed my life. And one of the examples in this book that really stood out to me is an example of how to be mindful. So it's like when you're done your dinner and you're washing your dishes, don't just rush through the dishes so that you can get on to watching TV or making a phone call or whatever it is that you're doing afterwards. Like be present in that moment. Wash the dishes with the intention of washing the dishes. Do a really good job. Pay attention to what you're doing and like be in that moment of washing the dishes. Don't just rush through it trying to get it done so you can move on to the next thing. And that one really hit home for me because I was like, oh my God, that is literally me. Because when I live on my own, I don't really use a dishwasher. It's like I'm one person. How many dishes do I have? I just wash them and like that's it. But I'm always rushing through the washing, especially because a lot of times I wash as I cook. And I was like, oh my God, like I never really pay attention. I just wash, go and move on to the next thing. Like I don't actually take the time to feel the soap in the water on my hands, feel the texture of what I'm scrubbing. Do you know what I mean? Like you're not in that moment. You're not taking the time to really be present in that experience. And I know that this sounds so silly. Like I'm talking about washing dishes. I'm talking about analyzing and like feeling like a child in a grocery store. Like that probably sounds so silly to a lot of you, but it really does make such a difference in your life. It's the difference between having a mundane day of just routine activities and having a day that really feels alive, that feels exciting, that feels like something fun and different. It brings so much more to your life when you are living mindfully and in that present moment. It's something that like, as many times as I try to explain this in words, it's something that you really have to take time to experience, to understand and feel that difference. And ever since I have started living like this, of course, I'm not perfect. I have days where I'm just so in the zone and not even paying attention. I go through spans of time without meditation. No one's perfect, but ever since I have started incorporating these things into my life, I've noticed a really big difference in my mood throughout the day, my nervous system regulation, how quickly my manifestations and other things that I'm working towards actually come to me, my relationships with the people around me. Like, everything improves when I do live this way. And it's something that I'm so passionate about, which is why I wanted to do this episode on it. So, in conclusion, I'm going to read from my little conclusion notes. Meditation and mindfulness truly can transform your mental, emotional, and physical well-being. And I have experienced this firsthand. And like I said before, like, we're all different. We all gravitate to different things. So there's no one size fits all approach to this. You need to tap into the different ways that feel good to you, because when it's something that we feel like we have to do, but we don't enjoy, we don't stick to it, right? So going through the different types, maybe you're so much more of an active meditation person than a passive one. Great. Don't put any pressure on yourself to do passive meditations then. Fuck it. Just go do your active meditations and leave it at that. Like, you want to do the things that feel good to you and that feel doable. Because actually, this is something I didn't even touch on here, but when we try and force ourselves to do things that don't feel doable for us and we end up not doing them, we then start feeling like a failure, right? It's the same thing as when you put way too many things on your to-do list and you don't actually realize how long these things take you. And then you finish the day only getting half of them done and you feel like you failed because you had all these things. But in actuality, if you had timed out how long every single one of those things takes, it probably would have spanned out to 3 days. You know, it's like you didn't actually fail. It's just you put yourself in a situation where you couldn't do everything. So when it comes to these types of things, and whether that's meditation and mindfulness, or whether that's going to the gym and working out, whether that's eating a specific diet, whether that's waking up every day at 5 a.m., like whatever it is, if you are trying to force yourself to do something that you absolutely hate, then you are setting yourself up for failure, and it's going to turn the internal thoughts in your mind of, I can't do this, I'm not good enough to do this, I'm not strong enough to do this, like this doesn't work for me, whatever it is. So with anything you do in life, find the way that feels good to you and move in that direction. Stick with that. Do not force yourself to do things in a certain way if it doesn't feel natural or enjoyable, because you will never stay consistent. So remember, just embrace the journey, have fun with it, do what feels good, and your life will change, I promise you. I hope this episode was useful for you guys today. As always, if you have any questions, please reach out to me at iam.alexischristine on Instagram or on TikTok. And if you guys like the show, please give us a review, a rating, share it with a friend, share it to your story, whatever it is, because the more people that interact with the pod, the more views we get, essentially, the more reach we have. And I just want to be able to help as many people on their awakening journey as possible and just navigate this 3D matrix of a world in the best way possible for themselves. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.